Way back when, some of us got really hyped and excited about Atlas, a pirate-themed survival game that was promising to be one of the big next survival franchises, a huge MMO with thousands of players being able to play at once, journey across various different tiles in all sorts of pirate ships, trading, fighting, and a lot more. But of course we all know how that went, derided at launch, beset by problems with no thorough testing prior, and absolutely just a crap show with every creator under the sun basically giving it a bashing. It got mostly negative reviews, a ton of refunds, and then they carried on working. The makers of Art Survival Evolved had their sister studio developing this game with help and input from them, and for a while it was a bit up and down. Some updates hit, some updates didn't, and then there was some brief period of time where there was no content. Updates finally hit again, and then more silence, and since then it hasn't been updated in over a year now. Another game to add to Snail Games, the publisher's abandonware docket. But we're not talking about Atlas today really, we're talking about a new pirate survival game, a new pirate MMO. This is Crosswind. It got announced a few days ago. Big shout out to the commenter that actually let me know. I'm being a busy boy, I can't cover every absolute new release, but this does look to be the real deal. A pirate buccaneer adventure, an MMO again, where you'll be travelling the seas in a variety of different ships, hopefully building up your own homestead, base, naval port or whatever, and then finally going to set seas to trade, barter and possibly fight other players. It's honestly appeared out of nowhere for me. I had not come across anything like this, but apparently it's had a bunch of testing already and looks like their next test is going to be an open alpha available on Steam. Best news, it's free to play. For some. I am a bit dubious of free to play games because let's face it, they end up putting in a bunch of microtransactions. As long as it's only restricted to skins, then it could be good. But I've got to say at first glance, from the little snippets of gameplay we see in between the CGI trailers, it does look pretty interesting and a damn sight better than Atlas ever did. And that's why I really started off with Atlas, because it's such a popular thing to possibly have. Who doesn't want to have naval battles? The closest we've had is Skull and Bones, and that didn't have any exploration other than just being on your ship fighting others. So that is the mix that people want. They want to be exploring tropical islands, finding treasure, maybe having some sword encounters. And then back on your boat, fire the canyons, my hearties, and pretty much let rip at some galleon coming up your port side. That's why I was so excited about Atlas, even though I knew deep down it was going to be an absolute crap show. So just maybe Crosswinds could absolutely easily take that mantle and be good. Let's hope so. So I did go and have a little nose and I found their YouTube channel with another trailer showcasing the building. It's not anything you've not seen before, by looks of things very much a blueprint building style, but green instead of blue. Foundations, walls and ceilings, check, absolutely, but this is a core component of what people expect with a deep open world survival game like this. The world looks pretty nice as well. I don't know if it's Unreal Engine 5, but definitely some of the lighting made me feel like it could be. Growing your own crops and being a farmer, so there could be a PVE life for you if you want, rather than maybe the full open seas, open combat that Atlas originally had. It does mention PvP, but doesn't really mention how the gameplay mechanics will actually work on the world. Is there going to be zones? Is it going to be just basically getting raided at any time? I would imagine probably zones, given it does list PvE content in its description on Steam. So this is really promising. It's Crosswind, a survival MMO set in the age of piracy. Explore a vast open world, gather, build and craft, overcome challenging bosses and their dark powers. It's definitely going to have a bit of a mythological take on it, as we saw in the trailer. I tried seeing if there was anything about who's actually making this game on their website, and to be honest, not a lot. It does look like it might be a Chinese-led development game maybe. Nothing inherently wrong with that, but they do love a good gacha and microtransaction, especially for games that are obviously going to be on mobile. If you ever wondered why I never really covered Once Human, because I'm not into games that offer a lot of gachas or loot boxes. Couldn't find anything on the Steam page that did say that would be the case. It does look like it is or might be a Steam release only at the moment. The game will have dozens of melee weapons and firearms. You'll be able to parry and dodge enemy attacks and obviously take on some of these bosses eventually as you rank up and rise to maybe a captain. It'll have story, and according to their roadmap, over 40 hours of content with its early access launch. All the typical stuff you'd expect. You might be able to sing a few shanties as you go along. In co-op or solo play, it does seem it's going to cater to both. With 3 biomes available at launch, and they're going to add in another 2. The three ships you'll have a choice with at the start will be a nimble cutter, all-rounder frigate or a monstrous galleon. And it is a full-blown survival game, no Sea of Thieves kind of survival light, or just really not at all. You'll need plenty of food and water perhaps to have sustenance. There seems to be a lot of food in the hot bars in the trailers. Mentioned something about having different strikes to gain the upper hand. I hope it's not directional combat, because man, that stuff is boring in Kingdom Come. But their roadmap does look good. As you can see, the 3 biomes like I mentioned, 3 new playable ships and a merchant ship, the ground and naval combat, survival gameplay, building, and it's going to have some sort of social hub prototype at least, which will be added over time and refined. Ton more stuff incoming, including combat improvements, crew and companions, refined naval gameplay, ship progression, customization, and ship crew on deck. Basically all the things that Atlas had, but maybe better and maybe a little bit more. Any excuse to show off my parody trailer that I built of Atlas in Ark. As we all know, that's how Atlas actually started, as a mod for Ark before Snail Games greedily said, you know what, can you guys make this into a full game? And Ark went and split their team in half to try and maintain and make both games. But I did like Atlas a lot, hence why I hyped it up, and even with all its problems and issues, I thought it could have a future. And then it launched on Xbox and I thought, yeah, this is good. It's going to get an influx of new players and everything should be good. But only a year later, that's when the problems really started. They just weren't adding the right kind of content. Too many outlandish ideas, like having children that could carry on your legacy. And we never saw anything close to the flying airships that were promised as part of its concept art. They never really solved the problem of direct PvP and to stop Chinese giant Zergs from basically just obliterating everyone. Until eventually they tried some PvP zones, I do believe, but it never really settled. The private servers that they had were just too expensive for anyone to really privately own themselves, as you only got access to 1 or 2 tiles, unless you wanted to cough up some serious money. So I'm just highlighting all the problems that Atlas had, so hopefully this Crosswinds game can maybe avoid and maybe do a lot better with. Atlas did have some great looking points of interest. It did have a good selection of ships that you could customise for a while until they kind of nerfed quite a lot of that. I don't think the boss fights or necessarily all the creatures that amazing, but there was a big selection of mythological ones and typical stuff that they skinned over from Ark to hopefully go right and tame. So there's nothing showing me that this is going to have some of that stuff. I can't see any tames in the game necessarily, and there's no mention of anything like that in it, but clearly you'll be able to farm, clearly you'll be able to build your homestead, and obviously have some interaction with other players, whether it be friendly or PvP. So I'm putting this on the docket, I'm going to keep my eye on it, I'm going to deliver you any news when we get something substantial, and hopefully I might even be able to take part in this open playtest, as apparently there won't be an NDA. So fingers crossed this might solve the pirate survival kind of want that everyone has been after, and we can all absolutely move on from that one to hopefully something that just works and gets content and updates. And I was about to say, best of all, it's free to play, so you won't lose anything other than your time. But some of these early access games do launch with their founders packs that you get to play and test and help out. And then once it comes out of early access, they make it free to play. So we'll have to see how that gauges. But again, I haven't come across any other info. So yeah, I'm going to dig around, keep an eye on it. You guys keep an eye on it too. And fingers crossed, this could be the pirate survival game we all want.